Good morning, good afternoon. It's great to have you all here. If you do not have a seat in the sanctuary, we're asking people to go to the Gratitude and Prosperity Room. It's a large classroom, big screen TV that is live streaming what's in here. You can go through this door, turn right, go down the hall and around, or from the foyer, around the hallway down to the classroom. And there's also 2 large bathrooms back there. On this side in the foyer, just next to the kitchen, but on that hallway is the women's room. And on this side, we have an all y'all room for anyone, or women's room that's on that side. So blessings to you all.
Sing grace, how sweet the sound. Sing so like me. Was lost, but now I'm found. Was gone, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to sing, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear before I first believed. Many dangers, toils, and snares I have already passed. Grace that brought me safe thus far, freedom that will last. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, saved a soul like me. I once was lost, oh, but now I'm found. Now I see.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us this afternoon, for this opportunity to celebrate the life of a loved one, lived to its fullest, though not as long as we would have wanted. Though the spirit of Foster Weldon Davis has left its earthly temple, we know that Foster himself is an eternal being whose journey continues on. It is our prayer that from this time forward, we may never think of him as limited by time or form, but always as a living soul, continuing on the pathway of life ever in the wise and loving care of God. And so let us now begin our time together in prayer. We are now in the presence of pure being, and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. Comforting love lifts our awareness, and we see death as but another transition in life. We are reassured in our hearts and minds and consoled in our mourning. We are encouraged as we continue on this earthly plane until the day that we too will move into the next realm. We know that added strength is given to all of Foster's family and friends, and that a blessing is bestowed upon them in this time of remembrance. It is in great reverence of this life and of eternal life that we pray, in the name and through the power of Jesus Christ. Amen. And so let us continue in prayerful meditation now, as we turn our thoughts toward God and these comforting passages of Scripture, knowing that their power to comfort us is because these words are true. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I come again and will receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be fearful. From Romans chapter 8. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God. And from 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though we are outwardly wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And so let us breathe and allow these words of truth we have heard to soak down into our souls and form a living presence of truth within us. Let us know that these words are as true for Foster as they are true for each one of us. And let us in this moment trust that as He has gone on ahead of us, He prepares the way for us, for family and friends, to follow Him into the next realm of experience. And let us silently know for ourselves and our loved ones this truth taught by Jesus, our way shower. I have said this to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you have tribulation. But be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Thank you, God, for knowledge of this truth in us. Amen. Life being of God and magnificently displayed throughout creation in all of its many forms can under no circumstance be lost. Life is eternal. It never ceases to exist. It does not allow itself to be lost or ended any more than God can be lost or ended. There is not now, never has been, and never can be any absence of life anywhere, at any time, because there can never be an absence of God in and through all creation. Because of that, we know that the soul of Foster is no longer trapped in a body. We know he is more fully that spiritual being that is too great to be confined. As we lay aside a garment at the end of a day, so has Foster laid aside the garment of the flesh. His soul continues in another sphere of life. And although invisible to us, he continues his soul experience. In this gathering of family and friends, we may sense Foster's presence with us even now, though his earthly form has gone from our sight. You know that you are the very people that Foster loved to have gathered around him in his living years. Foster Weldon Davis was born November 16, 1962, in Beaumont, Texas, to Charles Raymond Davis and Nancy Jane Copeland Davis. In Foster's early teens, his parents divorced and remarried, bringing Faye Holzer Dupuis Davis and Charles Watley into his life. Foster also entered into an expanded family of siblings as a result. And so this is the birth order that he entered into adulthood with and enjoyed for the rest of his life. Debbie Davis McCurley, Clarence Bubba Davis, Joey Dupuis, of course Foster, then came Todd Dupuis, Cammie Dupuis Kennedy, Brad Dupuis. Foster attended school in Nederland, Texas, and graduated from Nederland High School in 1981. He then attended Lamar University and Austin Community College while working full-time and playing with his band called State of Mind. During his career, Foster quickly rose through the ranks and became a national sales manager with Freedom Designs. Foster realized his true gift in this work, which was working with clients and assisting them in finding the perfect fit and wheelchair for their needs. He was recognized as a top salesperson, served as a board member and president of the Texas Rehab Providers Council. Foster furthered his knowledge and earned certification as an assistive technology provider professional. And in keeping with the humble man that we all knew, Pam says Foster won many awards throughout his career and his work, but they weren't important to him. She said he would bring them home from a sales meeting and put them into a box. And speaking of Pam, Foster met her in February of 1990, and they married December 21st, 1993 in Las Vegas. Now, Pam wanted to be married by the Elvis impersonator, which, of course, is completely understandable. But Foster stood firm, and they chose the more traditional Little Chapel of the West. Of course, I'm happy to say that Unity of New Braunfels was able to wrest Foster away from the Las Vegas spiritual tradition that he had adopted at marriage and find a community he could love and grow with here. Pam says that Unity brought him the inspiration of playing and writing music more and finding his spiritual home after a lifetime of searching and questioning. While we at Unity were enriched for having known him and Pam and watched as Graham grew and developed into an amazing young man, this was our privilege. Foster loved playing guitar. I don't know if y'all know that about him. I knew it was important for me to say it, but if he was sitting down, Pam says, there was a guitar in his lap. Even during football games. I don't know how he played football and used a guitar. I didn't ask her, but you can catch up with her later. Foster meditated every morning, and songs were delivered to him. Paul McCartney, eat your heart out, you know. He often would fall asleep sitting upright, cradling his guitar. Foster loved music and loved movies. He loved charcuterie boards before they were cool. He loved coffee. He loved food, especially boudin and other Cajun fare. And he loved cooking. He loved being a father. He loved everything about being a father. From rocking a fussy Graham back to sleep to spending all weekend watching football together. He loved a fire, whether in a fireplace or a fire pit. If building a fire was an option, Foster's answer was always yes. He loved cooking and basking in the compliments he received, especially on his gumbo. He loved talking for hours on end about any and everything, especially history or politics. Foster loved board games. He loved going along with whatever trip or plans Pam made. She says he loved our adventures together. He also loved pizza. He could eat it every day. Foster loved soaking in the bathtub for hours. I hadn't even given that a second thought. I was like, it's now on my new, what is it called, bucket list? Soaking and reading. He loved sharing his time and talents. Foster loved animals, especially the dogs and cats that adopted the Davis family they lived with. He woke in the morning with a song on his tongue and hummed or sang all day. He was known to sing to his clients, and heaven forbid you have a name that might be in a song. He would always sing your name to you. Foster was the epitome of good-natured. It was rare to catch him not in a good mood. When William and I went to dinner with Foster and Pam, I learned a great thing about a previous life he had selling wine. And here's the secret. Lean in, everybody. This is it. No matter what the price on a bottle of wine is, all that really matters is whether you like it or not. End of workshop. That's it. That's the seminar. Just know that you're liberated to try every bottle of wine you encounter and just see if that's the one. You just never know. I like wine. And all my intimidation fell away with that priceless permission from someone who actually knew. To this day, I'm careful not to try anything outside of my price range. Because I don't want to find out how much I might like a $100 bottle of wine that I can never afford to buy again. So that's it. Before I left New Braunfels, Foster and I went on a wonderful adventure. We went on an unplanned venture. Pam was supposed to be joining us, but she wasn't feeling well, and she gave permission to release Foster to me. And we went to hear a group that I had been hearing on the radio and had bought some music called David Wax Museum, and they were playing in Austin. And I was just obsessively listening to it. I talked him into coming with me, and we went up to Austin, and despite growing up in San Antonio, as I did, it was the first time I had ever been to UT Austin's Cactus Cafe and Bar on a school night. I mean, it was scary fun. We sat right up front in the tiny place and heard the warm-up band, and we both fell in love with this amazing female drummer whose every sound just went through us, and we talked through most of the music, though. And all the way home, I will never forget our musical adventure together and his generosity of going with me, as I wouldn't have gone by myself on a school night. I think that Foster is pretty much universally regarded as a kind of saint, largely advertised that way by his wife, Pam, who should probably know, actually. But I can't think of another person that I've met who was more interested in others than in himself, who downplayed his accomplishments and experiences while speaking from a deep respect for others and tapping into a well of wisdom in the lyrics of his music and in the principles that seem to guide his life. I know my life is better for having known Foster Weldon Davis. And I'm saddened to know now that there is no place on this planet that he leans against a tree with his guitar and sings the song he's working on. At this time, I would like to invite those who have let us know that they would like to share a memory or a few words about their life with Foster to come forward at this time. I forgot to look, put everything away. So Bubba's first. Bubba, would you please come up and stand here? And what I'd ask you to do is just hold the microphone, and I'm told to rest it on your chin.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, actually, we need you to do this so that people can hear it on live stream, and also it's going to be recorded.
Okay, great.
So we'd love for you to do that.
Well,
And you can hold this right
okay.
there.
I wasn't sure.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm trying to give it to you, so
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thanks for everybody coming. This is going to be a celebration, so I'm going to try to keep it cheery and talk about the young years of me and Frosto together. So Foster Weldon Davis, interesting name. Foster comes from my grandfather on the Davis side, Weldon from my mother's side. We called him Frosto. That was his name. It was cool to be a Frosto or a nickname. Some people call him Stowe. Some people call him Toe. In the business world, he was Foster. We had to, me and him both had to put official names on our business cards. But our friends knew us as, the nickname. So Frosto was Frosto. Nobody like him. Never met a Frosto before that. Growing up, me and Frosto were always together, especially elementary age. We did everything together. We shared a bed. I was on the bottom bunk, he was on the top bunk. Our sister Debbie, she tried to keep us straight. But we were a year apart, so we did everything together. And we were a very happy, fun family. We grew up mainly in a French community in Nederland, Texas. It was a different world. We were East Texas rednecks that got thrown into a French world. And all of a sudden, you go to school and they go, Arsenault, Babineau, Como, Davis. So we were a little different, But we had a really fun, happy family. So in the younger years, me and Frosto, we did everything. We played football. We played baseball. We played any game that somebody figured out during the street. We had great times. I probably liked golfing more than him, but he went because everybody else was going. We hunted together. We hunted squirrels. We hunted deer. We were not very good deer hunters. In East Texas, they did a hunting with dogs, and you were in a drive, and they'd always put us somewhere we wasn't going to see the deer. But we had a blast. Not sure what we would do. We saw the deer. But we enjoyed the food, the company, the campfires, the hanging out together. We had some crazy outlaw cousins. We went with them. We was always a little worried because they wanted us to shoot everything back then. And we were kind of in a panic and I asked my dad, I said, so what do we do if we see a doe? Because you couldn't shoot does back then. He said, no, that's easy. Just say you didn't see it. What a concept. So that's what I did. I just only saw the buck if it ran through, which I never saw. But we had a good time. Really did. So growing up with Frosto was fun. He never could find his shoes or his shirt. So it was always a rush at school time to figure out something to wear. So he wore anything. He wore scrubs. He wore house shoes. Everybody thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I didn't know he couldn't find anything else half the time. But he was such a beautiful soul. People thought that was cool. He was a rock star even as a young age. He He was always a little different, but he always was the coolest. He wore the long blonde hair like Graham did. It was the blondest, coolest, longest hairdo in Neyland. And people didn't know him, they knew that guy, because of that hair. And he had fun with it. We were at a deer camp one time, and Preacher Ray looks up and goes, "Yeah, really close to deer over by your daughter there." And he was talking to my dad. Frosty goes, "Ain't no girl." Kidded him forever about that, because he did look like a girl. He was pretty. So I was the tough big brother. I tried to toughen up Frosto my whole life. I failed in a good way. He saw the good in people, and he saw the good when I didn't see it. And he's such a kind soul. I gave up. So you're going to be who you're going to be. But I did it for a long time. Because I didn't want anybody to take care of my brother. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, being in deep East Texas as a family. We got to experience all kind of new things. And you mentioned gumbo and pizza and boudin. Well, we're this redneck family, and we don't even know what boudin is. And my mom brings a big, long thing of boudin. We thought it was sausage, and puts it in a pot with crackers. That's the way you ate it back then. She'd go to Judy's Market, come home. We don't know what it is. We don't know how to eat it. And, man, Frosto loved it. He's like, we need to get some more of that boudin stuff. So, but he also, some foods he didn't like, and he wasn't going to eat it. So we were big steak and potato people, and we had broccoli, I don't know, once every 2 weeks, and he hated it. He called it trees. I'm not going to eat those green trees. And the rule was you could not get up from the dinner table until you ate your vegetables. So Frosto would just stall. He didn't care how long it took. It could be 30 minutes. It could be an hour. He's like, I ain't eating those. And I'm like, come on, Frosto. If you eat them, we can go play. Nope, I ain't eating them. So he'd outdo my mom, my dad, and finally they'd give up and, not eat them. But he didn't like those. He was different, He stood his ground when he thought it was something he didn't want. And what he did like, he ate a lot of it. So he stayed skinny forever. He was a skinny kid, Then one day, life hits you and you grow a few pounds, but he was always in good shape. So I want to talk a little bit about his music, just to let you know where it come from. And, his first instrument was a harmonica. Me and him got a harmonica on Christmas morning, in elementary school. And we thought, wow, that's really cool, harmonica. And, we played on it through the whole holiday season. I got bored with it. I threw mine in the closet somewhere. He kept on playing. He had fun with it. He wasn't very good, but he got better every day, his whole life, I had a friend of mine, good friend, and he said in high school, we were, his football team with Frost over a year apart. So he said, when we had a losing game, he'd break out his harmonica. And, on the bus, you couldn't say anything on the bus. It was, not recommended or you get hollered at. He'd break that harmonica out and do the blues all the way home. There was never a coach that ever said anything. They hit the door, and he'd break the last note out, and they'd go out. So that was really kind of neat. He started a band, and I think it was the end of junior high, maybe in high school. Him and Corey Moore, I think Ray Busby. I can't remember who else was in there, but that was neat to have a rock and roll brother that had a band and everybody liked, They would play Eddie Money, Give Me Some Water. And, man, they'd knock it out of the park. It's like, man, that's such a cool song. And And they did such a good job on it. Now, the rest of them, they were okay. They do band, So, Frosto did move on his career. He started State of Mind and moved to Austin and met Pam and had a beautiful marriage and beautiful son. But he kept on playing for a long time. He gave it, I want to say 9 to 10 years, of 10 years, trying to be a rock and roll, for a living. And it didn't matter to him. He worked at the liquor store and delivered liquor. But he did it his whole life. He never stopped. He learned how to play every instrument in the band. He learned how to record them, do the music, do the choruses, do it and put it together and make a song. I mean, he loved that. That was his life. And like y'all both said, playing a guitar in his hand, that was just, fun to him. So we had so many cool experiences as kids. We're listening to Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Tijuana Express, the horns, somebody in the street playing French music, So he got a little rhythm and beat from everywhere. And so he enjoyed that part of his life. And we did too, growing up. So I'm just going to briefly tell you Frosto's jobs, because you might think it's funny or not, or just know how he got formed, in his career. And a lot of you people probably didn't know his first job. It's the worst job. I recruited him. We worked at the car wash, and we washed cars. And you had to put your hand in a soap bucket, and they'd break out in 3 days, and you couldn't even, you didn't have an OSHA back then to say your hands don't look good. You had to clean a car. So we cleaned cars by hands. Now, Todd got to experience that, and Joey got smart, went across the street and got a car business. But everybody did. Then he moved on to be working at Billy Joe's Barbecue, Port Neches. Don't eat the chipped beef. That's the first word he told me the first day I picked him up. Because I was the only one who could drive, and I had to pick him up at the barbecue place. He smelled like brisket in the car. I'm like, man, that smells pretty good. He goes, yeah, but don't eat the chipped beef. So that went on, I don't know, for 6 months. And finally, one day, I'm like, why don't you eat the chipped beef? And he said, because we spit skull in there. Sorry, it's the truth, but I had one. It didn't taste that bad, so I had quite a few before he told me that. And then he moved on to the flower shop. Flower shop loved him. There was about, 6 ladies that did the flowers, and he was the guy in the van that would bring you your flowers and meet you at the door and give you greetings. And man, those ladies loved Frosto. I mean, no matter where I'd see him in town, they'd, the first thing, well, how you doing? How's Frosto? And that's the way most the girls that I knew. Hey, how you doing? Where's Frosto? How's he doing? He's so adored by people, which was such a great trait. But anyway, he did move to Austin, and like I said, he was in the liquor store for a while. And then he became a medical salesman. I think his first job was with George Brown, and they sold some kind of medical equipment. And then he moved on to the wheelchair, and he became the wheelchair king. That's what I called him. He did everything in the industry. He not only became a salesman, national sales manager, he went to Congress and made sure that people had rights. And so he was an advocate of trying to help people out. And that's why he loved his job. He would sing to his patients, and as they fitted a wheelchair. So a lot of joy in his job and his work. So Frosto, he was always, he always had goals, but, his love of music, and he did the right thing. But way back in the day of, let's say, high school, up to high school, he had his own friends. And, he, enjoyed a lot of people's company. I enjoyed him kind of in elementary and junior high and where we had to, drive around. But he had a whole second part of his life that I know touched a lot of people. And nobody would say, I don't like that guy. And that's you couldn't meet anybody that said, I like your brother or I dislike him. I never heard that word ever because he was a kind soul. So I just want to close. I could tell you 100 stories. But I thought about this yesterday, and I thought, if I can think of something to say, I'm going to sing a verse, a chorus. I don't sing, but I think it's appropriate for my brother. So there was a band called the Hollies, and I love this line, and I'm going to finish up with this right here. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. Thank you, Frosto, I love you.
Hold it
That's a
at your
pretty
chin.
hard act to follow. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone that came here today to celebrate Foster's life. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get up here and do this, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And it's really funny as I listened to Bubba, a lot of the things as I sat down and thought about what I was going to say, it's all kind of the same thing. It's, Frosto was the coolest dude I ever met, okay? And as I wrote this down, it was really more as talking points for me, but I'm probably going to ad-lib most of this, okay? And if he would not want me to shed any tears, so I'm going to try my damnedest not to, okay? For those of you that don't know, Foster and I grew up in Nederland, Texas. We grew up on the opposite sides of the town, okay? And in 6th grade, I met Foster for the first time, okay? And I'm telling you, this dude oozed cool, okay? I mean, he had this long blonde hair. He had this fearless determination when he rode a skateboard, okay? And I mean, it was just unbelievable to me. The girls liked him, and he loved music, okay? And so that summer of 6th grade, he and I were inseparable. We did everything together. We must have put 1,000 miles on our skateboards and our bikes going from one side of Nederland to another, okay? And I'm going to tell this story because it helps me with the conclusion today. But I remember one day we found this, it was an appliance box in the trash, a really big refrigerator box or washing machine or something, I can't remember. So Frosto decided he was determined he was going to jump it on his skateboard, okay? So I tried it once, wiped out, and I didn't want to try it again, okay? So by the end of the day, Frosto not only jumped the box, but he jumped the box and 3 garbage cans, okay? But he had a serious case of road rash, okay? But it didn't bother Foster. Okay, and I use his Foster and Frosto interchangeably because ever since he married Pam, every time I would get around them, she always called him Foster, okay? So, and I remember one time I'm not sure if this was legal or not, but we went around town in Nederland. This is back when robins used to show up at a certain time of the year, and we must have shot 50 robins with our BB gun, okay? Not only did we shoot them, but we built a fire in the ditch in the front yard of the Davis's house, okay? And we ate them for dinner, okay? And I'll never forget, from that point forward, we always built a campfire in the ditch in the front yard, okay? And one night we're sitting there and Somehow we were underage, but we had beer. We noticed that these worms were coming out of the ground because it was so hot. And so we dared Frosto to eat a worm. So he ate a worm. Then we found a spider. He ate the spider. Okay? And of course, it was that time of year, so he had to eat a June bug. Okay? So anyway, but I remember all these things about he was just the coolest dude, you know? And then one day, we became brothers. And it was a party. It was like this constant sleepover for, like years, right? And we had the best time. It was so awesome. We had this VW camper, and Bubba, you remember, right? We used to go sneak into the drive-in theater, and Foster never paid because he was this skinny little dude with a long blonde hair, and he could slip in the back, and nobody ever knew he was in the back. So we would pay for the driver, and we would pay whoever was in the front seat, and then we'd open the door at the drive-in, and about 20 bodies would roll out on the ground. Okay, it was great. Okay, so anyway, moving on, we all know about Foster's love of music. Okay, and so when I first was going to spend the night at Foster's house, we never went to bed listening to the radio and waking up listening to the radio. But at Foster's house, we did, okay, the local radio station. And Bubba talked about the harmonica. Well, I don't quite recollect it that way. I think the first thing was a set of bongos, and he drove us nuts with those damn bongo drums, okay? But when he found the harmonica, everywhere we went, he carried a harmonica with him. And if we were on the side of an overpass skateboarding, or we were at our favorite spot, the Twin Tubes, the minute he had downtime, he'd break out the harmonica, and there he went, right? And then we all know about State of Mind. I mean, it was great, you know. He loved that, and it was awesome. And sitting around on the holidays with my kids, picking the guitar and singing along with them, it was great, okay? And then, we kind of went our own way. He started his family. He lived in Austin. I moved to Dallas. But every year we got together, and it was so awesome always to see him. As I sat down, one of the things I always remembered about Frosto, as I tried to recollect, but he was never angry. He was always this soft-spoken, he was the voice of reason. When we'd get in a fight, Bubba and I, or Joey and Bubba, or whoever, he was always the one that was there to, stop and, calm us down and make sure we didn't get in trouble with Ray or Faye, okay? His life, I'm so glad today that we're here to celebrate it. And like I said, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get up here and do this, so it's really awesome to be able to do it without shedding a tear. So one of the things I would like to say before closing that, he loved people, as Bubba said. And it's evident in the way he loved Pam and Graham and Abby. And he loved animals, so all of his pets. He always did when we were kids, right? And when I sat down with him a couple of months ago, he said he had no regrets. And I thought, how amazing is that, to be sitting where he is and have no regrets? And it's because he lived a full life, an amazing life, okay? And in closing, what I would like to say is, who would imagine 46 years ago when I found this kindred spirit in this lanky kid with this long, flowing blonde hair, that we would have ended up with this beautiful family that we have, known as the Davis and the Dupuy clan.
That's right.
And the last thing I would like to say is, Pam, Graham, thank you for sharing him with us. I love you guys. Thank you so much, okay?
Thank you. Now, if you can hold this at your chin, you get to use it. No, just kidding.
Is this about right? Hi, everyone. I'm John Morgan. I knew Foster for 25 years. I got a lot to say, although I don't really know how I'm going to say all of it. And I know everybody's been here a long time, but I'm going to be as quick as I can. So, first thing I'd like to do is start off by telling you guys how my very first encounter with Foster. So I was hired by Freedom, and Foster had just been promoted to a regional sales manager. And we met in the bar of the Holiday Inn in Hialeah Gardens, Florida in 1996. Now, Pam, you can't do that. And Foster was obviously, after I got to know him, he only drank beer and wine mainly, but for some reason that night he was drinking scotch and he was drinking doubles. And this story is not about him getting drunk, but anyway, it's obvious he was doing it because he had never managed anybody before, and he thought managers were supposed to drink like some kind of scotch or something. So we stay there for 45 minutes or an hour, and we walk across the parking lot to a Bennigan's to eat. Yeah, nice place. And we walk in, it's a Monday night, and they have karaoke going on. And I left off that during our conversation, Foster and I really talked about how much we love music. And I can't carry a note or a tune, but he had just bought this Beatles songbook. And of course, he brought his guitar with him, and he was telling me we talked about Lennon and McCartney and just all about our passion for them. And so we get to Bennigan's, and now keep in mind, I'd only known him an hour. And I start prodding Foster to go up there because, first of all, it was so bad, nobody was singing at Bennigan's except the guy who was doing the karaoke, because nobody would do it. So Foster goes up, and there was no stage. The music was awful. I mean, the sound was awful. And so Foster goes up there, and I had no idea what he was going to sing. And he goes up there, and he talks to the guy, he whispers. And he stands there, and the music comes on, and I'm thinking, it seems like I know this tune. And then Foster goes, "When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary." And about this time, this big fat woman sitting right here with food in her mouth just dies laughing. And Foster, it kind of shook him. And then he kept trying to sing, and he was like, and after a while, he just quit. And he handed the microphone back to the guy, and I saw him look at the karaoke guy, and he started. And then you saw the karaoke guy go. So Foster walks back to the table, and I said, "What happened?" And he said, "It's supposed to be in the key of C, and it was in the key of E." And I was like, I don't think that would have mattered, Foster. But so after that, for the next 15 or 20 years, we talked 4 or 5 times a day. We traveled the world, traveled the country together. I learned a lot about him. I learned about his work ethic. Foster grew Freedom Designs from $6 million to $18 million in 10 years. I learned about his love for Pam and Graham. I learned about his love for humanity. We never went anywhere where if we saw a homeless person, he didn't stop and pull out his wallet and give them something. And I would say, "Foster, they're just going to buy drugs or whiskey." And I'm ashamed I did it now. But that's what he did. And I learned he was one of the most honest people I've ever known. Speaking of honesty, I got to tell y'all a quick story about when we went to England. And we were working with a distributor over there, and it was an exhibit hall, and it was a lull in the group, and Foster we told him about State of Mind, and Foster mentioned that his band had opened for Jimmy Vaughn. And so, lo and behold, that week while we were there was a grand opening of a new bar in town that was the rock band Squeeze owned it, and they were opening it. So this guy calls up and tells the people who, everybody's trying to get in, it's a soft opening, you know, it's like a VIP thing, tells them that Jimmy Vaughn's bass player is going to be, is got a group of people. So they get us in the VIP deal. So Foster, the whole time we're driving in the taxi, he's going, look, man, I wasn't his bass player, you know. So we get there and we're in line and we're on the side door, and it looked like something out of a movie, like at the Viper room or whatever. And about this time, the guy comes to outside and he goes, is Stevie Ray Vaughan's bass player here? And Foster looks at me and I said, come on, let's go. And so the distributor just takes us in there, and all 6 of us went in. But the funny part of the story is Foster spent the entire night in a booth in a corner because he was afraid that they were gonna find out he wasn't really the bass player, and we were all gonna get thrown out. Foster had a great sense of humor, and he could tell any story, but he loved for me he was like a great straight man. He would always try to prod me to tell stories and jokes and stories, and he had his favorites, and if y'all don't mind, I want to tell y'all one of the ones. He used to love this one about my so-called roommate in college, and he would always try to get me to tell this whenever we had a new audience, and looks like to me I got a new audience. So I had this roommate in college named Bud, and Bud he brought his Labrador dog with him, and it was a fine dog. They had sent him off to schools and done all the different things you have to do when you got a good Labrador that can duck hunt. And wouldn't you know it, his first semester, Bud got in trouble for gambling. And he owed the bookie a bunch of money, and he was worried about it. So he called his daddy, and he said, and his dad was asking about it and everything. He said, Dad, they got a course up here. They can teach old Duke to talk. And he said, you're kidding. And he said, no, I'm not. He said, how much is it? And he said, well, it's $1,500. And he said, well, you think we should do it? He said, I really do, Daddy. He said, he said, we've spent all this other money on him, so his daddy sent him the money. And about 2 months later, he wrecked his truck. And he wrecked his truck, and he was drinking, so he didn't want his daddy to know. So he called his daddy back, and his daddy said, how's Duke doing? He said, he is talking up a storm, Daddy. And he said, well, what's going on? He said, they got a course up here now. They can teach old Duke to read. He said, read? He said, yeah. He said, how much is it? He said, it's another $1,500. So he sent him the money. And so Christmas came, and his truck wasn't out of the body shop yet. So he took the train home. And he drove home on the train, and he got off the train, and there was his daddy and his mama and his sister. And they give him a big hug and wish him Merry Christmas. They said, where's old Duke? And he looked at me and said, Daddy, it's a sad story about Duke. And he said, what? And he said, I had to throw Duke off the train. He said, you threw him off the train? Why? He said, well, we were riding down here, and I was in the Pullman car, and I was shaving, and Duke, I was looking in the mirror, and Duke was sitting beside me reading the Wall Street Journal, and he looked up at me, and he said, hey, Bud, is your daddy still running around with that waitress down at the Wagon Wheel restaurant? And his daddy looked at him and said, he said that? And he said, he sure did, Daddy. He said, and you threw him off the train? And he said, yes, sir. And he said, good. And they start walking down the thing, and he put his hand over around Bud, and he whispered, which was always Foster's favorite part, and he said, He is dead, isn't he? Anyway, that was always one of Foster's that he would try to get me to tell. I just got a couple more things, but I want to circle back to the karaoke. Fast forward 14 years, and we're in Orlando, Florida. We had just worked a show, and we go into this mahogany-style bar, and there's a few industry people there. It's not that crowded, but it's pretty crowded, and there's karaoke going. There's a stage about this high, and I said, "What about it, Foster?" And he had a glass of wine and thinking, and he went up there, he handed him a note. And this was a fancy place. This is one of those that had the karaoke on the ground where you just could look down at it and see what it was. And all of a sudden the music came on, and Foster started doing his little thing. And look, this was a good sound system. And he closed his eyes, and all of a sudden he started with, "Ain't no sunshine when she's gone." And he sang the entire thing without barely having to look at the music. And he hit the I know. He hit all 23 of those just right. And he got to the end and he said, I know. Hey, I'm a leaving young thing alone. Because ain't no, and he was rocking. And when he got done, it was a complete standing ovation in the bar. And it was led by me. And no, it really was. But I mean, the standing ovation he got. And I just remember then, and I've thought about it often, how much our friendship had evolved at that time. It's like the first time I'd known him an hour, I thought it was funny that it didn't work. But when he got that standing ovation and he did so great, I thought I was cheering for him like I would a brother or a son at a Little League game, because that's the kind of love that I felt for him. And I told him I loved him every time I talked to him after he got sick, and I wish I could tell him that now. I want to end. I don't even know if I need to read it because I think I could almost say it. I've read it so many times since 6 weeks ago. But I mentioned I'm from Oxford, Mississippi. A lot of you people may know, or some of you may not, but Oxford is the home of William Faulkner, who was a Nobel Prize-winning author for literature. Pam and Foster went to see William Faulkner's house when they were in Oxford. But if you've never read Faulkner, he's hard as hell, excuse me. But, yeah, he, one sentence might take a whole page. But my grandfather was friends with Faulkner, and there was another friend of theirs who lost a young daughter. And Faulkner wrote him a letter. And in that letter, you're not going to find this letter on the internet, or it's not in a book. I actually typed this from the actual letter that Faulkner wrote. And I wanted to read it to Pam and Graham and to Foster's family, because I just always thought it was so deep. And this is what he said in his letter that he penned to this. And the only thing I've changed is Foster's name in this. Human beings are so constituted, and thank God for it, that even grief cannot stay green very long. You will hate to hear this, and hate more to believe it. And your very refusal to believe it will give you this comfort. It will help to tide you over into a time when grief will be quiet. And instead of a date on a calendar and a mark on the earth, Foster will not be dead at all. He will be a living part of a living experience which will last as long as mind and body last. And because of it, you can say to yourself, because I have suffered, I have been alive. It is suffering that has raised me above the articulated lumps of colored mud which teem the earth. And so, as long as I have grief, death cannot hurt me. Thank you.
I'm so grateful to hear from Foster's family and business associate. It's really wonderful to hear firsthand what we all experienced in our own stories. We'll have some opportunity following the service to share more stories, and you're going to have weeks and months to share stories with Pam and with Graham and with those who have known Foster with you. And just want you to know that this is your opportunity to keep that beautiful memory alive, not only for yourself, but for those who have yet to meet Foster, but will do it through you and through your love. At this time, what I'd like to do is, before you guys play, I'm sorry, is to have the video, and we'll close with the song that you're about to do. This video was put together, I think, Pam, you were pulling out lots of the pictures here, and we have Foster, you'll recognize, playing beneath it.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh yeah. I see skies blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh yeah. And the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, they're also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? What they're really saying is, I love you. I see babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah. And the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, they're also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? And what they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn more than and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh yeah. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh yeah. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's cloudy every day. Ain't no sunshine when she gone. This house just ain't no home anytime she goes away. Wonder this time where she's gone. Is she gonna stay? Ain't no sunshine when she gone. This house just ain't no home anytime she goes away. Anytime she goes away. Oh, and I know, 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 I know. I gotta leave a young thing alone. There ain't no sunshine when she's gone. When she's away, ain't no sunshine when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Anytime she goes away. Bill Withers.
And now a song that Foster wrote once he came to Unity of New Braunfels, and one of the very first that he performed here. Too few times now that I think about it, but it's wonderful to have the band here to represent it.
The three of us played with Foster quite often, so we've got a lot of experience with him. God is love, God is peace, just as much as you believe. It's in you, it's in me. Hallelujah. God is. It's the sound when a baby cries as it comes to this world. It's the sound when someone dies as they're passing through this world. It's the light in the young child's eyes. It's the passing of pain.
It's in every sunrise, falling softly with the rain. God is love, God is peace. It's just as much as you believe. It's in you, it's in me. Hallelujah. God is. Sometimes we forget what makes us whole. Sometimes we regret the things we let go. God is love, God is peace. It's everything that you believe. It's in you, it's in me. Hallelujah. 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 God is.
Okay. I know that Foster is well taken care of, and he is free from the confusion and the pain of this earthly existence as he passes through the door to the new life he so richly deserves. And though he has disappeared from your sight, he remains fully alive in your hearts and memories. His touch, his impact, is still deeply embedded in your lives. And you are forever changed for the better for having known him and been loved by him. What a tribute to a life is the grief and sense of loss you may be feeling for him now. Know that your deep feelings come forth as testimony to the intimacy with which one man touched you with his life, with his caring, his devotion, and his love. As we prepare to release Foster's spirit from the confines of this limited plane on earth and urge him onward in his spiritual journey, I invite you to take just a few moments with me now to close your eyes and now bring to mind an image of Foster as you knew him, as you remember him. Take a few moments to feel the feelings that accompany these images and just let your memories be what they are. Breathing, and allow yourself to relax and gently turn to your thoughts, Foster, and your life with him. Now. With open hearts, we give thanks for the gifts of this life and trust we will continue to grow in grace and truth. In the name and through the nature we share with Jesus Christ. Amen. I would like to conclude our service today with a poem that was written by Mary Elizabeth Fry, but it speaks to the eternal, everlasting part of each of us And if we listen carefully, I believe, we can hear Foster's voice reassuring us in her words. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I'm 1,000 winds that blow. I'm the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight and ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the soft star that shines at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. And now, as we prepare ourselves to go back into the world, stronger for having spent this time together, the memory of a man who touched our lives with his own, let us remember that Foster has not gone anywhere. He has gone everywhere and remains connected to each of us whenever we remember him or think of him in any way. We thank you, Blessed Spirit, for sharing Foster with us. We know that we are richer and better able to fulfill our part in the challenge of living, for having known him and been loved by him. We thank you, living, loving Spirit, for your life, light, love, and truth that lights our path and brings us ever nearer to you and our beloved Foster. We do this in the name and through the nature of Jesus Christ. Amen. Let us now offer our prayer for protection as we release Foster's spirit to the path he is now to follow. This prayer is one we use in unity to close our services. We direct it now to Foster himself. Foster, we know that the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. Amen. This concludes our service. Our band will play a beautiful song to conclude. Are there any directions or instructions? And so we just direct everybody there. So there's a reception following, but listen to this first. And thank you for being with us.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadows of this life are gone, I'll fly away. Like a prison from this bird have flown, I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Oh, when I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
Amen.